Your hormones of metabolism. The triad of cortisol, thyroid, and insulin dictates that managing stress has to be critical to rebalancing your metabolism, to resetting your metabolism. I want you to take that seriously. And it doesn't mean just ignoring that there is stress. It means taking active steps to manage stress. I often ask patients, what do you do for stress management? And they say, I exercise, I take a bath, I listen to music, I go to church. And these are great things for self-care and to help you have less stress, yes. However, the science is very clear. Cortisol is a tear-down hormone. And for the time that you're walking or exercising, you're not thinking of your stress. And then you go to bed and you're thinking of your stress, or you go back to your life and you're experiencing stress again. It allows the whole cascade of stress hormones to take over again. And all of its impact on your health and your metabolism, on your brain, on your immune system, on your ability to sleep, on your ability to be calm. I could go on and on listing the impacts of stress on you. Suffice to say that there are strategies you must implement to change how your body responds to stress. This is where the science is at. Mindfulness-based stress reduction and meditation. These two practices rewire your brain and you experience stress in a different way, in a non-negative way. Wow. Yes, I mean you can still have the stress and just not have the same impact from the stress. Now, I'm not saying don't do your therapy or EMDR or EFT or body tapping and Reiki and whatever else you do to help you handle your past stress and trauma and your current stress and trauma. Those are essential components too. But what I'm saying is that meditation and mindfulness are critical to rebalancing your stress hormone response. So cortisol is a tear-down hormone. It tears down muscle and helps you store fat instead. When you understand that, you will understand that your whole body is in an accelerated aging state. This is huge. This is why you look older after you've had a period of significant stress. This is why you see people who've aged suddenly. You can imagine that they've had significant, substantial stress. When cortisol is out of balance, it is the master hormone as well. And cortisol is necessary at cell receptor sites in the right balance for you or your cells to understand that there are other hormones and that they can work efficiently. For example, if your cortisol is too high or too low, not only is your immune system impaired, but the amount of estrogen and testosterone in your body is not sensed accurately, and you may feel low in estrogen or testosterone and feel like you need more when in fact it's about having the right amount of cortisol at the cell receptor sites. This is really very important. It leads us into a future topic of the HPA axis, the hypothalamo-pituitary-adrenal axis, and how that influences your overall health and your metabolism, and especially your brain health as well. But let's get back to this whole hormones of metabolism and fat burning. So I hope you're beginning to see that it's never about just one thing. It's not about just treating your adrenal fatigue, which is old news now. We don't talk about adrenal fatigue anymore, but I'm happy to hear that people know about it because it opens them up to nutrient repletion, stress management, managing cortisol. So cortisol by itself is very important that you understand, but very important that you don't focus on as the only cause of your stress. And keeping cortisol in mind, you can now see that there are strategies you need to implement other than taking pills and supplements and hormones, like meditation and mindfulness-based stress reduction, that are imperative you implement into your daily life to impact positive hormone balance, positive metabolic hormone balance. Make sense? Then there's your thyroid hormone, and we talked about the receptor blockers. Now, thyroid hormone is very interesting. People look at it as just a metabolic hormone. You know, I'm fat because my thyroid's off, or I feel cold and I can't lose weight because my thyroid is off. And as we talked about, thyroid and cortisol are intricately intertwined. Now, oftentimes, repleting nutrients, managing stress, and re-regulating your cortisol balance can improve how your thyroid hormone works in your body without taking more. The Metabolic Igniter is a product designed to optimize thyroid function by giving you the nutrients you need to produce healthier levels of thyroid hormone without taking a hormone. Once we start replacing hormones in the body, we're changing whether your body can make it ongoingly or not. See, when I take a hormone by mouth, my blood levels change and my body's sensing system decides that I have enough and it doesn't need to make more. So I try not to run out and replace hormones in patients when their bodies are able to make it. Make sense? Now, insulin. Insulin is a fat fertilizing hormone. It is produced in response to your blood sugar levels rising. It takes the sugars and stores it as fat if you don't use it. Now, most people are pretty sedentary compared to the sugar intake. And I mean sugar from peas, corn, and carrots and potatoes, not just sugar in your tea or coffee or in the candy bar or in the baking and whatever else you might think as natural, as usual sources of sugar. All sugar, all carbohydrates stimulate insulin. Today, insulin resistance is one of the most underdiagnosed conditions around, and we wonder why we have such an overweight population. Let's supersize it. Let's eat French fries. Let's drink more pop and slushies and whatever. That's how our youth are being raised, right? Then there's chips and candies and all of those things. All fast food is infused with sugar and sugar-like molecules. Why? Because it's addictive to your brain. It's been shown that sugar can be as addictive to your brain as cocaine. Isn't that alarming? And now you know why it's in almost everything you buy that's prepackaged and processed. We're creating addicts to these products. Don't fall for it. Eat food the way God or Mother Nature made it. That's in its natural balance. There's fiber. There's antioxidants. There's vitamins and minerals and nutrients that accompany the natural sugars in these foods that you're eating. Your body handles it differently than a huge surge of sugar. So here's what happens. You eat a meal at Moxie's, and there's a baked potato, there's a chicken breast, and there's steamed vegetables, okay? So you've asked for steamed vegetables. Almost guaranteed it's going to have some kind of unhealthy oil on it. Your chicken breast has sugar inside of it to enhance the taste and flavor, and in the spices that they're using to prepare it. So it has to taste amazing, right? And we've confused ourselves into thinking that food has to have some sweetness and certain flavors to it to be appetizing and palatable, and they want you to come back. Your baked potato is pure starch, and starch breaks down into sugar molecules. And then you have dessert because you ate a healthy meal, and your dessert is pure sugar as well. So what happens? Your blood sugar goes up and you produce insulin. When insulin rises, it brings your blood sugar closer to normal by taking the excess and storing it as fat. Now, you're not out walking. You're having a sip of wine or a cocktail. So your sugar levels were higher and you needed more insulin to bring this level back down to normal. Why? Because your body is designed to function within a very, very narrow level of a blood sugar range. Anything above or below gets corrected back to normal by insulin and glucagon. So you're laughing and talking with friends, not using a whole lot of energy. So all of the sugar you've consumed gets stored as fat. It would take a lot of exercise, more than you can do, to negate the impact of that meal you had out with your friends. Now imagine you're also under very high stress. So you go home, back to your stressful circumstances. So you've had this great time, fun time, relaxing time, and then you come home and things are stressful again. And you go to bed and it's stressful again. And under stress, we said, your body releases sugar because caveman was running from a tiger. Do you see how that works? What else affects body fat? DHEA is a very important adrenal gland hormone. We call it the hormone of youth. It's made in larger amounts in mammals that live longer. Mammals that live very short lifespans have little to no DHEA. So that's why it's called the longevity and youth hormone. We also know that as we age, DHEA levels drop. When they studied Japanese who were 80 plus and very fit and active and not on any hormone replacement, it was found that their levels of DHEA were naturally managed. So they produced DHEA well into their 80s, and they looked and acted much younger than they were, and they didn't get sick. So that's where the youth hormone term came from, that people who manage and produce their own inherent levels of DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone, DHEA, live longer and healthier and younger. Now, I'll say this much. You age because your hormone levels decline. Your hormone levels do not decline because you're aging. Let's put it another way. Your hormones levels decline and you're aging. So if we keep these levels of hormones back to youthful levels, you feel and act younger. You burn fat more easily. So DHEA comes from your adrenal glands, and it actually balances cortisol. We see a ratio of DHEA and cortisol and DHEA in younger people. DHEA impacts your immune system. It helps you burn fat and protect your muscle mass. It used to be a drug that, a hormone that was quite abused in fitness circles because people found that if they took a lot of it, it downstreamed into testosterone. So DHEA becomes testosterone. And helps you build muscle and burn fat. However, again, anything in excess is bad for you. It's all about balance and moderation. So let's talk more about this DHEA cortisol ratio. So your adrenal glands put out cortisol and they put out DHEA. Under stress, your cortisol level will rise. Your DHEA level will initially stay at the same range. The higher your stress and the higher your cortisol, you start to affect cells in your brain's hippocampus. That's your area of memory. And you may notice this under stress, that your memory is not the same. So here's your cortisol affecting your brain. Your body then produces more DHEA to protect your brain. And it has been studied and shown that when this happens, it's protecting your hippocampus from decline, from being torn down by cortisol. So your whole body is tearing down, including your brain, and your brain is actually shrinking under high stress. And this is why it's so important to manage your stress and do all of the strategies that change your body's negative response to stress. So at some point now, you're getting nutrient depleted, as we talked about, that the more hormones you're making, the more nutrients you're using, and you're getting more and more depleted if you're not able to replete your nutrient stores. Clear? So then you start making less DHEA and your cortisol levels start to decline. And this is where we're seeing the dysregulation in your adrenal gland hormones. Now, because of the impact on your brain and because your brain has a thermostat system, we are now saying, think of this as HPA axis dysregulation instead of adrenal fatigue. Okay? So when you have an imbalance between DHEA and cortisol, you're going to have an imbalance in the ability to burn and store fat. So looking at your adrenal gland hormones and knowing that the amount of cortisol influences how your body can sense and use testosterone and other hormones, other steroid hormones, it's all interconnected. Can you see that? So it's not about any one thing. So I mentioned testosterone. Men and women both make testosterone. Women from their ovaries, men from their testicles. I also mentioned that DHEA downstreams into testosterone as well as estrogen in both men and women. In women, they have a propensity to take their DHEA from the adrenal glands and make more testosterone. We can measure this in blood. And in men, they have a propensity to take it and make it a bit more estrogen than testosterone. But again, it depends on genetics and biochemistry and all of the other hormones. So it's very difficult to say that's what's happening to you. That's why we measure everything in you. Okay? And it's only when we measure can we take the right action steps and replete and rebalance appropriately. Growth hormone. IGF-1 is the measurement we take from your blood. Growth hormone has a very short half-life. It's a few seconds from the time it's made, goes into your blood, gets to your liver, and then it's changed into IGF-1. So we measure IGF-1 to talk about what are your body's levels of growth hormone? Are they ideal or not? We know that you make less growth hormone if you don't sleep efficiently. We know that you make less growth hormone as you age. So growth hormone is another marker of aging that we should rebalance back to youthful levels. It is not a simple hormone to rebalance. It is very expensive. The rules around it are very tight. It's not easily available to the average person. However, taking certain nutrients, certain amino acids, improving sleep, and improving how all of your other hormones work and function, we can improve your own production of growth hormone. So these are just some of the more important hormones of fat burning and fat storage. Progesterone. Progesterone is a great feel-good hormone for women. It's a neurosteroid, we call it that, meaning it works on the brain. The metabolites of progesterone help you feel calm. They help you sleep. Now, I just said, if you're not sleeping, you're not making growth hormone. So not having progesterone in women affects their metabolism in multiple ways. So when we're anxious and we're craving, and we will have struggles with body fat. Women after age 30 make less and less progesterone from their ovaries, and there is no other mechanism for progesterone. In the old days, women were just given Valium and other benzodiazepine sedative type drugs to keep them calm and not care, but it didn't actually fix the issue. We also know that with the absolute increase in toxic exposure, we have estrogen dominance, which I'll get to in a moment. And so we have a relative progesterone deficiency. And so women younger and younger are having symptoms of low progesterone. So low progesterone makes you not sleep, makes you anxious, makes you irritable, gives you worse PMS. And I don't know where exactly this came from, and I don't want to blame naturopathic medicine, but I've seen this a lot. Patients come in on a yam cream that has progesterone in it, and they just use it freely. There's no measuring, there's no checking, none of that. What we know about progesterone is in excess, it will increase insulin resistance. Insulin resistance means your insulin doesn't work as efficiently, and so you need to make more and more to bring your sugar levels down. Now, if insulin is a fat fertilizing hormone, how's that going to help you? It's not. So progesterone is not something you should be buying over the counter, taking a cream and randomly using as much as you want to until you feel better. It's all about balance. And progesterone in excess can make you store belly fat. So be careful with that. I know you feel good when you take it. Just know that when it's not working at the right dosing, there's some other hormone out of balance. Now, estrogen and estrogen dominance. Estrogen, we think about just from cycles and menstrual cycles and PMS. We make estrogen from our ovaries, and we make a certain amount in balance with progesterone. In the first half of your cycle, you make more estrogen than progesterone, and in the second half of your cycle, you make more progesterone than estrogen. And then you have a break, you have a menstrual cycle, and it carries on. Today, it's no longer as simple. We have xenoestrogens, many, many man-made molecules that mimic estrogen in our bodies. We're seeing it in our water bodies. They're now finding fish, male fish, growing female organs because of the amount of estrogen-like products. Phthalates, bisphenols, all the plastic and petroleum product residues act like estrogen in the body. And so men are not immune to this. Men have relative estrogen excess as well as women. This is why they're gaining breast man boobs. You'll see it. They've got breast tissue like women. They're gaining weight and looking like women. They have that more hippie kind of weight gain, not just belly fat anymore. So we have more estrogen coming in, estrogen mimickers coming in from the environment and the toxins and all the exposures. Body care products have estrogen mimickers, xenoestrogens, X-E-N-O estrogen. And so we have higher levels of estrogen in the body compared to our progesterone and testosterone and everything else. And remember, I said estrogen affects your thyroid as well. So you have this estrogen excess out of proportion to progesterone, and you feel like you're low in progesterone when you're actually too high in estrogen. That's a problem. Remember I said a lot of women are buying progesterone online, and they're just taking it randomly or self-medicating, you can take a lot of progesterone to bring this back into balance. But the actual issue is the estrogen excess. Now, estrogen is metabolized in your liver and excreted through your gut. This is why in your Metabolic Reset program, one of the first steps we look at is gut health, digestive health. We want you pooping every day, 2 and 3 times a day. Once after each meal is best. Because we want you to get rid of these estrogen metabolites and lower that estrogen burden on the body and bring about healthier balance to stop impacting the thyroid hormone, for example. Now, it gets more complex than that. The microbiome that I mentioned, the bacteria in your gut, they're instrumental in getting rid of estrogen metabolites. So if we don't look after that, we're still not fixing the issue of estrogen excess. If we're not cleaning out your liver enzyme pathways to enable the efficient metabolism of hormones and excreting them, we're still going to have relative excess. You've got to get rid of the bad stuff and bring about the natural balance instead of taking extra other stuff to try and hide the symptom. Your whole metabolic reset is to bring your body back to balance as naturally as possible. It means putting back all the systems that are not working into optimal function. It takes time. And this is why following the steps is so critical. Okay? So, your Super Pro, all of the probiotics, you have multiple different ones that we rotate you through on your program. These are to bring about bacterial balance in your gut and restore the whole microbiome so that you can get rid of estrogens, so that you can manage your immune system, so that you can reset your metabolism. Your Metabolic Optimizer is one of the most critical components of your Metabolic Reset program. Why? Because it's providing your liver with all of the key ingredients it needs to work optimally and get rid of this estrogen excess, to get rid of all of the toxins that are polluting and backing up your body's biochemistry, to clean out the hormone receptors. It contains all of the amino acids for you to build muscle, grow healthy hair, skin, and nails as a side effect. I know, it's great. But the Metabolic Optimizer is a key component of your program for all of these reasons and more. It takes energy to get rid of the toxins and clean out the hormone receptors. Your Metabolic Optimizer has that. It has antioxidants to neutralize the free radicals generated by removing toxins. In fact, just breathing and your heart beating and a cell working all generate free radicals. These are molecules that damage DNA, that cause aging. And your Metabolic Optimizer has antioxidants to neutralize all of these things. So we're giving you a full serving of protein, enough energy and nutrition to remove toxins, to neutralize free radicals. It has a multivitamin in it to support all of your cellular systems and functions. It supports your liver. It has the cofactors that are required for fat burning, all the nutrients that you need to burn fat. It has the nutrients you need to make energy. It is a critical component because it supports your liver, cleans out your biochemistry, and cleans out your cell receptors. Then your Super Pro at the same time is rebalancing your gut microbiome and helping you with this estrogen imbalance, as well as all of your body chemistry that's dictated by your microbiome. We'll get into all of that. So, estrogen and progesterone have to be in balance. When you have estrogen excess, we call that estrogen dominance. The solution is to get rid of it. using the Metabolic Optimizer, your healthy hormone Metabolism, which is a specific product derived from brassica vegetables that has been shown to enable your liver to get rid of estrogen excess. Estrogen excess shows up as larger breasts, fibrocystic breasts, cellulite on your hips and thighs. If you're getting cellulite, you have an estrogen excess. Now, larger breasts might be welcome for many people, but tender breasts, lumpy breasts, all risky because estrogen dominance is a risk factor for breast cancer. So see how a hormone like estrogen, which actually doesn't affect fat in a way that people would think, becomes critical to your metabolic reset. Now, estrogen, the higher it goes, affects a molecule called thyroid binding hormone, thyroid binding globulin. Pardon me. Thyroid binding globulin, when it rises, attaches thyroid hormone to it for transporting. And as it's attached, it's not available for your cells to use. So what does that mean? The more thyroid binding globulin you have in your body, the less thyroid hormone you have available, free to use. So you will feel low in your thyroid hormone based on having estrogen dominance and estrogen excess. This is why the key components of the Metabolic Reset program, as far as nutritional supplements and support go, have been designed and created in this way to look after all of these things. Then your metabolic igniter helps you make more thyroid hormone. So it does take some additional nutritional support at the start to get you rebalanced. And I just want to end on talking about thyroid hormone. So thyroid hormone, your thyroid makes T4, levothyroxine. There are 4 iodine molecules on that levothyroxine. We have to remove one of the iodine molecules, so we have 3 left, and this is T3. T3 is the metabolically active hormone. T3 does 80% or so of the work of thyroid hormone. If you cannot convert from T4 to T3, you do not have a sense of healthy thyroid hormone balance, meaning your doctor's usually measuring TSH, which is the brain thermostat for thyroid. It's not even your T4 or your T3. So your brain has a thermostat for all of your hormones. And when the thyroid starts making less, your brain says, hey, thyroid, you're getting kind of lazy. Can you make more, make more, make more? And so it starts shouting. Think of thyroid stimulating hormone as thyroid shouting hormone. So thyroid shouting hormone starts shouting at your thyroid. You're getting lazy. You're making less and less. Can you make more, make more, make more? And so your thyroid starts to push out a bit more. And so your TSH starts to come down. And classically, only TSH is measured or T4 is measured. But if you just look at those 2 hormones, you're not looking at whether you're converting T4 to T3. And T3 is what gives you energy and fat burning and body temperature regulation and your healthy hair, skin, and nails and all of those good things. A regular cycle, a healthy gut movement, all of those things are affected by thyroid hormones. It's very important, and it's not just for fat burning and energy. So consider that if you're nutritionally depleted, you cannot convert T4 to T3 because it's called deiodination, okay? And so it's regulated by important minerals and vitamins. Some of them are zinc, selenium, vitamin A. All of these things are found in your metabolic igniter. We're helping you convert T4 to T3, okay? As your body heals and resets itself, you need less things to take to do this work. Trust me, you won't be taking that many pills all of your life unless you don't do the rest of the work. So understand that your thyroid is not just as simple as measuring that TSH, because you don't know what's happening with T4 and T3. T4 to T3 is affected by nutrients. Many people have early Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Their immune systems are so suppressed from toxins and stress and nutrient depletions that they're making antibodies that are killing off the thyroid gland. Now, our cutoff point for antibodies in Calgary, for example, is 0 to 34. If you live in Fort McMurray, Alberta, the cutoff is 50. Now, how do you explain that? You don't. Suffice to say that our cutoff in functional medicine is 0. When we see your body mounting an immune system response of 14, 18, sure, you're not at 38 or 55 to be diagnosed, but we can tell, and we call this predictive autoantibodies. And the reason I'm bringing this up is as you start making thyroid antibodies, you're diminishing your thyroid responsiveness to producing thyroid hormones. And so if we don't measure the antibodies, we're not going to understand the full way your thyroid is working. And that's why our testing is so comprehensive. We need to understand everything about your biochemistry and your hormones and how they're all interacting with each other. And then how are we going to reset your body and help it work better and more efficiently so that you have good, safe hormone balance. So just an introduction to your hormones of metabolism. I'm Dr. Natasha Iyer.